For years, Earth ignored every galactic summons. The Council mocked humanity as unreliable, even weak. But when humans finally arrived, they came with 1,000 warships, and the galaxy would never be the same. The silent response, the frustrated. Council High Chancellor Vexus of the Galactic Federation slammed her forearms against the crystal podium, causing ripples of energy to cascade through the Grand Assembly Hall. The massive chamber, carved from a single asteroid and suspended in the void between 3 stars, housed representatives from over 200 species. Today, they faced their most persistent problem. Esteemed delegates, Vexus announced, her voice carrying across the vast space through quantum resonance. We gather for the 47th time to discuss the Earth situation. For 63 years, we have sent diplomatic messages, trade agreements, and cultural exchange proposals to the 3rd planet of the Sol system. For 63 years, we have received the same response: complete silence. A rumble of frustration echoed through the chamber. The Korthak delegation, towering insectoids with gleaming carapaces, clicked their mandibles in annoyance. The aquatic Nerians bubbled angrily in their environmental suits. Even the normally patient Eldari, ancient beings of pure energy, flickered with irritation. Admiral Thorn of the Centurion fleet stood at attention, his military uniform bearing the scars of countless battles across the galaxy. Chancellor, my scouts report increased activity in the Sol system. The humans have expanded beyond their homeworld, establishing colonies on nearby planets and moons. Yet they continue to ignore all contact attempts. It makes no sense, muttered Dr. Kalin, the Federation's chief xenobiologist. Our analysis confirms they possess the technology to receive and understand our transmissions. Their mathematical and scientific knowledge appears adequate for basic interstellar communication. So why do they remain silent? The mystery deepens. Trade Magistrate Zeph, whose species controlled most commercial routes in the Outer Rim, activated a holographic display showing shipping manifests and resource reports. The economic implications concern me most. Human colonies are completely self-sufficient. They mine asteroids, establish manufacturing bases, and develop agricultural systems without any external assistance. This level of independence is unprecedented among developing species. Chancellor Vexus nodded grimly. Throughout galactic history, emerging civilizations had always sought contact with established powers. They needed technology, resources, and protection from hostile forces. The humans seem to need nothing. Perhaps they fear us, suggested Ambassador Lyra of the Peaceful Worlds Coalition. Her translucent skin glowed with empathetic concern. Many primitive species initially react with terror when discovering they share the galaxy with hundreds of other civilizations. Admiral Thorn reviewed his tactical assessments. Fear might explain radio silence, but not expansion. Human vessels have been detected in 17 star systems. They move with purpose and coordination. These are not the actions of a frightened species. The debate continued for hours, as it had for decades. Some delegates advocated patience, others suggested stronger measures. The Korthak demanded immediate action while the Eldari counseled wisdom. Through it all, one question remained unanswered. Why would any species choose isolation over the benefits of galactic citizenship? The breaking point. Enough discussion, Chancellor Vexus declared, her patience finally exhausted. The human situation has become untenable. A species that refuses to acknowledge galactic law cannot be permitted to expand unchecked throughout civilized space. She activated the Council's voting system, a complex device that weighed the opinions of all member species. According to ancient protocols, I propose Operation Gentle Persuasion. A Federation fleet will travel to Sol system and establish communication through direct contact. If the humans continue their silence, we will implement standard isolation procedures. The vote was closer than expected, but it passed. Admiral Thorn received authorization to assemble 50 heavy cruisers, enough firepower to convince any reasonable species to negotiate. The fleet would carry diplomats, scientists, and traders ready to welcome Earth into the galactic community. If the humans remained stubborn, the same ships could enforce a quarantine that would confine them to their home system. Hidden watchers. What the Federation didn't know was that every meeting, every vote, and every strategic discussion was being monitored by sophisticated sensors hidden throughout their space. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains on Earth, Director Elena Vasquez watched the alien debates unfold on massive screens that lined the walls of humanity's most classified facility. "They're finally moving," announced Dr. James Chen, Earth's leading expert on xenolinguistics. He had spent 30 years learning alien languages and studying galactic politics through intercepted communications. "Admiral Thorne is assembling Task Force Unity, 50 ships, mixed diplomatic and military mission." Director Vasquez had gray hair and tired eyes, but her voice carried the authority of someone who had helped guide humanity through its most critical period. "Timeline for arrival?" 6 weeks, assuming they use standard hyperspace routes, replied Captain Sarah Mitchell, Earth's top strategic analyst. "More if they want to approach carefully." The control room buzzed with quiet activity as hundreds of technicians monitored alien communications across the galaxy. Earth had been listening for over 6 decades, learning everything about galactic civilization while revealing nothing about themselves. The Federation believed humans were primitive and isolated. The truth was far different. "Begin Phase 7, Director Vasquez commanded. "It's time our neighbors learned who they're dealing with." Throughout human space, hidden bases came alive with activity. Ships that had been disguised as asteroids powered up their engines. Manufacturing facilities buried in dead worlds began producing weapons and supplies. Soldiers who had trained in secret for decades received their final orders. For 63 years, humanity had watched and waited, learning their enemies' strengths and weaknesses while building strength in the shadows. The Federation was about to discover that silence didn't mean submission, it meant preparation. The calm before Admiral Thorne's fleet departed 3 days later, following predetermined routes toward the Sol system. The ships moved in perfect formation, their crews confident in their mission. They carried gifts of technology, offers of trade, and promises of protection. If necessary, they also carried enough firepower to blockade an entire star system. As the Federation fleet jumped to hyperspace, quantum sensors throughout human territory tracked their movement. In command centers hidden on Europa, Titan, and a dozen other worlds, military officers prepared for humanity's first open contact with galactic civilization. The Federation expected to find a frightened, primitive species ready to accept guidance and protection. Instead, they were heading toward a confrontation that would reshape the balance of power across the entire galaxy. Earth's silence was about to end, but not in the way anyone expected. The reckoning arrives. The approach Admiral Thorne stood on the bridge of the Federation flagship Harmony's Dawn, watching the blue-white star called Sol grow larger on his displays. 6 weeks of hyperspace travel had brought Task Force Unity to the edge of human space, and the Admiral felt confident about his mission's success. "Sensor sweep complete," reported Lieutenant Commander Kellex, his reptilian features focused on the tactical displays. "I'm detecting significant orbital infrastructure around the third planet, multiple space stations, defensive platforms, and what appears to be a substantial civilian shipping network." Admiral Thorne nodded approvingly. "More advanced than we expected, but still within normal parameters for a developing civilization. Communications, begin broadcasting our diplomatic package on all standard frequencies." The message was carefully crafted by the Federation's best xenopsychologists. It contained mathematical proofs, artistic expressions, and technological offerings designed to appeal to any intelligent species. Previous civilizations had responded within hours of receiving such comprehensive contact packages. Hours passed, then days. The human response was the same as always: complete silence. "Sir," Lieutenant Commander Kellex reported with growing concern, "we're detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. Multiple gravitational distortions suggest large objects moving at high velocity, but our sensors can't get clear readings." Admiral Thorne frowned. "Sensor interference?" "Unknown, sir. The signatures are unlike anything in our databases." The revelation. On the third day, space around Task Force Unity began to shimmer. What appeared to be empty vacuum suddenly resolved into solid matter as hundreds of ships dropped their cloaking systems. The Federation vessels found themselves surrounded by a fleet that dwarfed their own force by 20-1. Impossible, whispered Admiral Thorne, staring at tactical displays that showed over 1,000 human vessels in perfect formation around his 50 ships. How did they mask such a massive force? The human ships were sleek and angular, built with materials that seemed to bend light around their hulls. They moved with precision that spoke of advanced computer systems and highly trained crews. Most disturbing of all, they had achieved complete tactical surprise against Federation forces that prided themselves on superior technology. A transmission appeared on all Federation frequencies. The image showed a human female in military uniform, her expression calm but determined. Admiral Thorne recognized the insignia of authority even though he had never seen its design before. "Admiral Thorne," the human said, somehow knowing his name and rank. "I am Fleet Admiral Jessica Rodriguez of the Terran Defense Network. Welcome to Sol System. We need to talk." The truth emerges. Within hours, Admiral Thorne found himself aboard a human vessel unlike anything in Federation databases. The ship's technology seemed to blend familiar principles with innovations that challenged his understanding of physics. His escort, a human officer named Colonel Harrison, led him through corridors that hummed with barely contained energy. "Your people have been monitoring our communications," Admiral Thorne stated as they walked. It wasn't a question. "For 63 years, Colonel Harrison confirmed without apology. "We've learned your languages, studied your politics, and analyzed your military capabilities. We know more about the Federation than most of your own citizens." They entered a conference room where Admiral Rodriguez waited with a team of advisors. Charts and displays covered the walls, showing detailed intelligence on every major Federation species, their military strengths, trade relationships, and political structures. "Why?" Admiral Thorne asked simply. "Why ignore our offers of alliance and cooperation?" Admiral Rodriguez gestured to a display showing the Federation's expansion patterns over the past 1,000 years. "Because we studied your version of cooperation, Admiral. New species join as junior partners with limited rights. They provide resources and follow Federation policies in exchange for protection and technology. Eventually, they become dependent clients rather than equal allies." She highlighted specific examples from Federation history. The Viridian Collective joined willingly, then watched their military forces integrated into Federation command structures. The Helios Republic accepted technological assistance, then found themselves economically dependent on Federation trade networks. The pattern repeats with every new member. Admiral Thorne felt a chill of recognition. The human analysis was disturbingly accurate, identifying aspects of Federation policy that were rarely discussed openly. The counter-proposal. "So you chose isolation over dependency," Admiral Thorne said. "But isolation has limits. The galaxy is vast and dangerous. No single species can survive alone indefinitely." Admiral Rodriguez smiled, but there was steel in her expression. "Admiral, who said we were alone?" New displays activated, showing human diplomatic contacts throughout the galaxy. Secret alliances with species on the Federation's periphery, trade agreements with independent worlds, military cooperation pacts with civilizations that had grown tired of Federation control. "For the past 20 years, we've been building an alternative network," Admiral Rodriguez explained. "Species that want genuine cooperation rather than guided dependency. Our intelligence suggests nearly 40% of current Federation members would prefer more autonomy if they believed it was possible." She activated a communication system that reached across multiple star systems. Faces appeared on the screen, leaders from dozens of species that Admiral Thorne recognized as Federation members or protectorates. "The Terran Alliance offers true partnership," declared Prime Minister Zala of the Rigel Commonwealth. "Equal voice in collective decisions, voluntary participation in joint operations, and respect for local sovereignty. The Federation talks about unity while demanding submission," added General Voss of the Outer Rim Defense Coalition. Humanity offers unity while preserving independence. Admiral Thorne realized he was witnessing the formation of a rival power block that could fragment the Federation's carefully constructed order, the new reality. "What do you want from us?" Admiral Thorne asked, understanding that the balance of power had shifted dramatically. "Recognition," Admiral Rodriguez replied simply. "The Federation can continue operating as it always has, but it needs to accept that other models of galactic civilization are possible. Species should have choices about how they interact with their neighbors." She gestured to the tactical displays showing the massive human fleet. "We're not here to conquer or destroy. We're here to ensure that choice remains available. The Federation can adapt to a multipolar galaxy, or it can try to maintain its monopoly on galactic governance through force." The threat was unmistakable, but it was wrapped in reasonable language that made direct retaliation difficult to justify. Admiral Thorne activated his emergency communicator, establishing contact with Chancellor Vexus and the Federation leadership. The conversation that followed would last for days, but its outcome was inevitable. Humanity had demonstrated capabilities that exceeded Federation estimates and built alliances that challenged Federation authority. The galaxy would never be the same. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Federation faced an equal competitor for influence among the stars. The age of unchallenged hegemony was ending, replaced by a new era where species could choose their own paths among the stars. Earth's silence had ended not with submission, but with a declaration of independence that echoed across the galaxy. The humans had spent 63 years preparing for this moment, and they were ready for whatever came next.